Hey guys, sorry, I just ran quickly to get some coffee. I noticed that there's 1 minute to go. Let's start the stream, and I'm gonna quickly explain what is happening here. So during this stream I will be using the color palette that is currently available. This is not that color palette. The first cool thing about Procreate 5 is that I don't know that if this was in the previous version, but now you can scroll through palettes, and if I remember correctly, it was the very last one. I just wanna quickly check that I am using the Procreate beta version, yes, so that we are in the 5x. So I'm gonna be painting this in Procreate 5x. And this update is going to be available to everybody quite soon, so that is exciting. And I will be using Polar's ice cream truck as a brush, and the reason for that is because the theme is the same as last time, which is the weather box. Roger Rafael Franco is asking, how are you? Good. Excited to start painting, and I already blocked in something because I want to get as far as possible with this live stream. I can't promise that I will be finishing this painting, but I will try to get all of the main elements as close to final as possible. That's my promise to you. And if anybody has like any questions on like how you can take this palette from Instagram and turn it into your own palette, let me know if I can help you with that. I have already done a whole video on how to do palettes and what is the logic behind the palettes that I make. It's quite an old video, but there's some really good information there, not just about palettes, but also about painting and light. The first thing I'm going to do is try to decide the logic of light, because this illustration has a lot of cube surfaces. I want to block the colors on each side so that I know where they are located. Actually, I don't understand the way that this palette looks in that view, because I have sorted all the colors so that I can understand this view better. Because in the smaller view it just kind of like reorganizes all the different boxes, and I had a specific logic on where those boxes are, so that messes it up for me. No. I wish I could keep this visible on all the time. And like usual, I just want to say here in the very beginning that I won't be having time to read all of the comments in the chat. I will try to answer as many as I possibly can, but when the stream is done, I will watch the entire stream and then answer some of the questions that I missed in the comment section below. So keep that in mind, and I hope that you understand that if I keep reading the chat constantly, I won't be getting any painting done. Hey Arjan. I'd like to know how you make colors blend. I'm not sure if I do a lot of blending. I just choose the colors in between. I think that is more useful skill, because then you also learn how to use brush strokes to create volume and rhythm in your paintings. So I would recommend having that as a priority over blending, but of course blending is important, and for that reason pretty much in all of my brushes I have this mode. Actually you can't see what I'm doing on screen, so I have this mode. Oh my god, I activated Siri. I didn't catch that. Siri, I'm listening. Please stop listening. I hate Siri with passion. So in pretty much all of my brushes, I have this feature that when I use the brushes in a tilted angle, it creates low opacity brush strokes. But I don't use that most of the time to blend the colors, but I actually color pick this sort of like halfway between the two colors, and then I erase it with a double tap, and then I paint at 100% with that color. So it's not really blending, but I try to find the in-between colors that way. Siri, please shut up. Siri, go away. You're taking up screen space. Can somebody advise what is the quickest way to let Siri know that she should take a hike? Right. You need an app for me to help you with that. With what? Going away? Now it went away. It took the hint. Thank God. Ruby Brianna, sorry for butchering your name. Hi Mikko, I just bought your brush set and I'm using it right now. It's lovely. What is your favorite brush out of your pack? I don't think I have a favorite because I made brushes like so much. I mean, I had pretty much 30 brushes when I started making this brush pack, and my idea with it was because people kept requesting for me to make a brush pack. At first I thought that I don't want to add to the clutter that people have in their painting system at all, so then I decided that like, okay, if I'm going to make this, because I'm just now being mean when I'm not like doing it as so many people are requesting it, so I decided that the only way to do this brush pack is to like narrow it down to the brushes that I can use a single brush for an entire painting. So that was my logic for it, and it took a really long time because it felt like killing your babies at some point when there were brushes that I liked, but when they were similar to each other, I tried to combine the features into like just one brush so that I would be happy with just having one. I guess the brush that I have used the most is Mikko Ral, which is my version of Nikko Ral. It fixes all the things that I had a problem with in Nikko Ral, but Nikko Ral is one of my favorite like default Procreate brushes, so even if you don't buy my brush set, I recommend like using it, especially for blocking in. It's super fast and easy to use, and I love the fact that it has such a huge maximum size, so you never have to kind of like waste time with small brush strokes. And the geometric shapes make it really easy to kind of like make big decisions quickly. So those are the things that I like about it. I'm gonna take this perspective grid off, or at least put it into a very low opacity, because I've already used it for this drawing, and for now I don't need to go reference picture. This is Vivi. How do I get rid of this? Drawing guide. Okay. The reference picture is really handy because you can actually zoom in in the reference picture separately. Wow, I lost the connection to the screen for some reason. Let's see. Sorry. I hope it's coming back, is it? I'm gonna connect it again. Is it connected now? Yes. I think all of the screens need to have a little bit of screen space on screen. So I have to have the OBS open and the screen sharing app open at the same time, and they all need to have screen space visible. I guess that's how it works. Let me know in the chat if anybody is using the same palette right now. I think that would be... And I would love to see what you paint with it. So now when you go to hue and saturation, you have to click like if you want to adjust it in layer mode or in pencil mode first. I'm just trying to get like most basic colors in, so I have a better understanding of just what I'm doing. But I wanted to like do some blocking in so that I would get like further along, because from the last stream I learned that making pictures in this weather box style, it's a bit time intensive, and I need to kind of like keep hustling all the way through this stream so I get further along in the painting process. This version of Procreate will be available to the first iPad Pro. I think I have the first iPad Pro, so yes. The previous video that I made about Procreate 5, I literally had like one day to put it all together, and I've never made a video that fast. And when I released it, I noticed that I was in the time window of 3 hours when all of those videos were coming out, so just goes to show that everybody on YouTube is like hustling really fast with this stuff. Did you make this palette with the new photo palette feature? Emily is asking. No, actually I made this palette in the previous live stream, and I have the result of that live stream as the thumbnail of this live stream. So but the photo palette thing is probably like it's one of the features that I think I will be using the most. I just really hope that they will add that to the Procreate Pocket version, because having portability with that feature would be so handy in so many different situations. Do you wipe your screen often when you draw? If I'm by myself, then almost never, but because I have this YouTube channel and I'm making these videos, it results in just insane amount of screen wiping, because sometimes even the tiniest specks can be visible on screen. And if you have noticed, a lot of my videos are in 4K video, even though that is something that I probably need to consider if it's slowing down my process to the point where it's not worth the effort. But in 4K you can definitely see it, and I have a bazillion lights. One thing that I have learned through having this channel is that cameras eat away pretty much like 90% of the light, so it might seem like it's relatively dark in here, but it's like daytime and I have 7 lights blasting to my face. And the same with whenever you see me like screen recording the screen, just to have that sort of like neutral light where the screen brightness isn't the only thing adjusting the white balance, just to have that amount of light on the wood around the iPad, it requires like the whole room to be lit into that direction with these massive panels that I have. And those are the sort of things that when I started like doing these YouTube videos, that I had like no idea that I would even need to do that. But it's fun to learn all this stuff. Hey Candy Girl, welcome back again. Question, I use Sketchbook. I found it so hard to get used to Procreate. Any tips? I thought that Sketchbook, it is a pretty good application on the iPad. I honestly used it before I used Procreate. But when I started using Procreate, just like the lack of buttons and having touch controls to everything, over time it just makes painting faster. But I'm not saying that Sketchbook is bad. Sketchbook is great, and every application has its own pros and cons. So if you like using that more, go for it. By the way, if it's not clear, this channel is not sponsored by Procreate. I don't work for them, but I think people get hung up on like what applications to use, and I try to keep most of the content on this channel not specific to Procreate when I talk about painting. And when I've been thinking about like having this own art course, for the basics course, I think it's important to talk about the technical stuff of Procreate, but for advanced painting course, the stuff that I usually talk about in my concept art classes, when schools hire me to do those aren't program specific at all. I don't talk about brush settings or which tools to use. It's just about painting and illustration and how to create visual storytelling through picture. And that is universal to all applications. So, and applications change, so I don't want to give the students tools that they would find useless in a few years where they are working in a company and then the industry standards change. So the same rules will apply 10 and 100 years from now. Can you suggest books and tutorials that I can follow to make my art? I'm not like a big fan of tutorials, but books, sure. Like anything by Loomis is great. And there are some really great animation books. I know that this is going to sound scary at first, but there are these animation books from Walt Disney Studios. There is a life drawing teacher that gave the students these notes, and these notes have been compiled into 2 books after his death, and I think these are amazing books because you can read just 1 page, and on 1 page there is just like 1 concept, which are these notes that he scribbled down, and every time you learn something about illustration and storytelling. I think it's great because it's very easy to read and it's amazing value, and there are 2 books of these, and you can buy them as softcover books, so they aren't that expensive, and they are drawn to life. 1 and 2, drawn to life. I know that everybody has different opinions on this, but like as an art teacher, you can imagine that it wouldn't be in any way okay in any art class for me to make a painting and then ask the students to copy that painting. That's not how art is taught, so that's why I'm not like pushing people to like tutorials, because I think it's a slower way to learn anything. Also, I do think that it's important to also train your imagination at the same time, because if you just train technical skills, the imagination doesn't come on its own without trying. I need to have the drawing guide on so I know what direction I need to transform these vertical trees. Oh, actually, now I have this color fill on, so if I tap the screen, it will fill this selection with the color fill. But if I tap it off, can you see it? It's between clear and save and load. So it acts like a paint bucket. And that was very handy when I plugged in this illustration in the first place, because it has a lot of these sort of square shapes. So I could use the color fill to just instantly block in everything that I didn't need to use the brush separately after doing the selections. Okay, I think I'm happy with the placement of these trees. Actually, these two here, they're too similar in size, so I'm gonna take out some of that. Just making sure that I'm using the same brush for erasure as I have for the main painting brush to keep the textures consistent. Does Procreate 5X have palm rejection? I think Procreate normally has palm rejection. I always accidentally select something with my hand when I use pencil to pre-select something. This isn't really an issue that I have, so I'm not sure if I can comment on it. But for these sort of like technical troubleshooting things, because I've heard this problem before from some people, but I recommend going to Procreate's forums and just asking there, because they're not like most companies. They actually reply quite quickly if you have a technical problem that is solvable. It might be a settings thing. But I have several times like asked like about glitches or technical problems or stuff that I thought is a glitch, but it was just me not understanding how some features work, and they have responded to me every time, usually within a day. But now they are probably overwhelmed with people asking Procreate 5X stuff. Like questions like, can I have it? End of list. Because of you, I bought iPad Pro and I've been loving it. Great. It's a huge investment, so glad that money didn't go to waste. Hi Mikko, did you arrange this palette in any particular way? I'm painting with it and I was wondering. Sure, let's talk about that. So, I can do this. This doesn't make any sense. Especially since this camera is reversed, which is super annoying. So I will just like verbally talk through the palette. So in the top left corner, you will now see the sky colors, and on the top right corner, those are tree and foliage colors. I usually try to make sure that the tree colors are usually quite a bit darker, desaturated, and often a bit colder greens than the ones that I use for grass. And especially in this illustration sense, the whole point of the previous one to have this sort of like neon green for the light areas that is overexposed, I kept those two different hues of green in different areas. Then the middle section is just different hues for from the left side, different hues for the blocks in the weather box, and then on the right after that, these that I'm clicking through right now, these are shadow colors for those. And these are distance shadow colors for the box in the distance. And then there are some like extra colors for like branches, and this I didn't use in the previous session, but I thought that it would be interesting to have at least one accent color to be in there. I usually try to fill the entire palette too, even if there is some colors that I won't be using, because then I won't accidentally think that an empty swatch is a gray color and then click on it and create a color in the painting process, because that just kills the flow and it's super annoying. So usually my color palette covers everything. But this thing I think is super cool, that you can now scroll all the palettes, so you wouldn't need to just like limit yourself to one palette. If you are running out of boxes, you can just create those two and then drag them next to each other and use them. Thanks, Candy Girl. Thanks for being you. I appreciate that. There was someone commenting, on my previous live stream that like, we don't care about your life, we just want to learn about brushes. And I was like, maybe this is not the channel for you then. So I am running this channel, it's going to be about me because it's about my paintings. I know there's only one day left for the release, but anyone knows how artists got hands on the beta version? Well, I don't know if I can tell. I just got an email that like, here's a beta key, go have fun with it. And they explicitly told me that like I can share what I'm doing with the beta version on my YouTube channel. So I got a permission to post them. Previously, when I was using the Procreate 5 beta version, there was a time limit when I wasn't able to talk about the 5X, and then they gave me the permission that like, now you can talk about it, and then I had like a billion videos to release at the same time, because those were all the paintings that I have been doing with it at that point. I'm thinking that maybe it would be fun to have the sunlight come from like a little bit below. Maybe the weather box is so high up in the sky that it's kind of like a golden hour already. I don't know. Do you have a tip on creating characters? It's just something I'm really bad at. Do you want to create characters? I think we tend to get good at things that we like to do. For me, it's usually just something silly. I think it has taken me quite a long time to cut out that sort of like censoring thing, that what are other people going to think about me, because previously my characters were really serious and they weren't that interesting, but then I just, I don't know, relaxed a bit and just started making characters for myself and thinking that what kind of creatures would I be interested in meeting. And when I was doing characters for video games, I had this one rule that I had for all the characters, and it was surprisingly helpful. And I know that this is going to sound completely silly, but honestly, all of my character designs and like clothing designs and weapon designs and shoes and jackets, they changed after I figured this out, is to ask myself this one question, is would this character be a kind of a person that I would like to go and have few beers with? Like, would that sound like a good idea? And after I saw the characters through those lenses, it completely changed the way that I approach designing characters, because then after that, all of my own characters were interesting, at least to me. That doesn't mean that everybody is going to love them, but at least I can be happy with every one of my characters when they are people that I would love to hang out with and get drunk. Why light mode? I answered this in the last live stream. It's because I tend to paint quite dark. And if I have dark surroundings, it's going to make all my dark colors look lighter in comparison. So this keeps the balance better, especially for prints, because painting too dark is really bad for prints, as all the prints are inherently a little bit darker than the digital version of them. Where is that blue scribble? Or is this a hole? It's a hole. Damn it. This is why I hate painting on multiple layers. It's bound to happen. Sorry about the barking. Vivi just had lunch and was out for a walk, and then she tends to have this dognado moment afterwards. It lasts about 15 to 30 minutes, and then she naps for hours and hours. But it's not as bad now as it was a few weeks ago. She's getting easier to handle every day. We were just today in a forest to make her get used to forest surroundings, and that was fun. She's a bit afraid of sitting in the car though. I love designing accessories for characters, like especially all the clothes. I remember one of the last game projects that I was working on, I was designing one leather jacket for 2 weeks, and it was so cool. I wanted it so bad. It's the mad half hour. Is this a common thing? I don't remember having this like dognado moment with my previous dog, but maybe I was so young back then that I just didn't remember that it was happening. Laura Perez is saying, "Hi Mikko, I just want to tell you that I'm really happy to see you in the live stream. I always miss them because I'm in a different time zone. I love seeing your process. Thank you for sharing it." Thank you, and I'm sorry about the streaming times, that they are not suitable for everybody. But now that I'm working full-time freelance all the time, I can do these streams in different times of the day, so hopefully some of them will be more accessible to more people. But right now the dog is obviously a priority for me, so it will be some time before I can have the live streams at different times of the day. Now it's the weekend and my boyfriend is taking care of her, so it's fine. By AS. Quick question though, and if you already answered, I'm sorry. What's your favorite new feature in 5X? The palette thing is pretty cool. I didn't used to use palette as much, but like they are pretty cool. But I would love to say that this potential of this, for example, just look at this. Like you can tap curves and then put it in pencil mode. And let's say that I'm putting a bit like exaggerated contrast here. And now I can use the same brush and just increase contrast in one specific area. Imagine when the whole painting is done and you want to like emphasize one area or lighting in a specific way, you can just do this and even adjust it afterwards before you commit to the changes. I think that is like super handy, and this is probably something that is potentially going to change the way that I work. So, and this goes for everything. You can blur with a brush and have different shapes of brushes to blur with. The possibilities are just endless, and the more I think about it, the more I have like these different ways of working that like come into my head, and I can't wait to explore all of them. So that is exciting. And I haven't seen this feature in any different like art program before. It's not quite the same as adjustment layers in Photoshop. In some ways it's faster and better and less confusing because it forces you to make decisions. I know that for editing and design, having adjustment layers, that is better for design, but for painting, doing this is faster and I think better. I think those are the differences where people say that Procreate is going to replace Photoshop. I don't think that's their intention, and that's not the way that I see it. Because the reasons that I use Photoshop, they're completely different that I use Procreate. I think Procreate is built for illustration, and Photoshop is built for design and photo editing. I don't think these two are going to replace each other, but they're just two different things. And you can see it in this update that they just didn't bring new Photoshop features into Procreate, but they invented ones that are useful for painting, and I'm really happy about that. Ananya Mold says, "Hi, I recently watched your Procreate 5X all features walkthrough video, loved it and subscribed." Welcome to the channel. It's weird. It's a weird channel, but hope you'll like it. Do I have to install iPad OS 14 for the new Procreate update when it comes out? I think so, because when I registered into test flight to use Procreate 5X, it didn't boot up before I had done the update. It was just crashing at opening. So after I updated, then it worked fine. By the way, if this crashes, remember that this is still the beta version. I'm not sure that if it's the exact same one as the full release that is coming. In the previous 5 update, they changed some button placements for animation reference right before the release. So I had a video about it, and the information was off because one button was changed from the layers into the animation reference palette itself at the last second. So I'm sure even as we are speaking, they are crunching the last final tweaks over there. I can hear behind the door that Vivi just ate something that he shouldn't have eaten. I love this track. By the way, there's not going to be a random Christmas song this time because I have edited the whole playlist beforehand, and that is over 3 hours of music. So they are pre-approved by me. I want to have this block be in front of the other one, and to emphasize that sort of like layering, I'm putting bush in between. It's been an exciting month. I mean, all the new game consoles coming out too, and there were so many cool game announcements just recently. Stuff that I am personally really excited about, like Final Fantasy 16, and I think it's going to be done by the director of 14, and I have played 14 a lot, so that seems like a cool idea. Also, it's like not science fiction again, which I appreciate. I just hope that it won't be like generic medieval stuff, because they are really good with like fantasy designs. And most importantly, there were 2 new Monster Hunter games announced for Switch, and like I lost my crap when I saw that trailer. I love Monster Hunter. Have loved it since the V days. I think I'm going to leave this tree branch here and just like loop it back into the weather box with a branch. This is the branch color. Well, this is not going to be the branch color for this painting, that's for sure. Much better. This is the trick that I learned when I was painting Walking Forest. You can see that in that video I said that if you just use a desaturated version of the green, when it's next to the tree foliage, that green will look brown and reddish in comparison, even if you use green tone. What would you say is the best thing to do when starting to paint? Stop using many brushes. Do only one brush and then you will learn how to use line and brush strokes better, faster. Always have your own ideas, but that doesn't mean that you can't use reference. Whenever you need reference, always use reference and never feel bad about it. Use reference out of everything that is not bolted down, meaning that like if you're not stealing stuff, it's free to use as a reference. Use it, don't feel bad, and never apologize ever. Like in the industry of illustration or concept art, there is no art police. So if you're using, for example, your own face as a reference, no publisher is ever going to come back at you and like say that you did something wrong by doing that. But if you take 8 times more time doing that same illustration because you didn't have reference fast enough, then they will probably like drop you because you're not producing work fast enough. How do you always get interesting compositions right away? I'm using the checklist method, and this is the checklist method that I teach in all of my art classes. So I do it for myself. I'm not going to say something lame like it's intuition. It's not intuition. I'm running through the checklist in my head all the time and referencing it with what I have on screen. And that way I can take out all the guesswork, and I never want to say it like this turned out well, or it's just I couldn't fix it. If I can't fix it and there's something that is broken, I will go through the checklist and then I will find the flaw that way. It works 100% of the time. This doesn't mean that you have to love all of my paintings, but I know that I can cross-examine the composition of any painting, not just my own, but like anyone else's, and give critique based on that checklist. And it takes away also this sort of like favoritism of like what style I like more, because I can give feedback to completely different students with different styles, and once they learn to give the same feedback to themselves, they will learn to get better at that style. It doesn't matter if I like or don't like that style, the same rules of composition apply to everything anyway. And I know that like, especially when people are starting out, this like, even the mention of like a set of rules sounds like there are no rules in art, I want to do everything on my own, and that's fine, and that's probably what an art teacher wants to hear, because it's those students that will eventually come up with like all the unique and different ideas. But for an illustration to be understandable, it's important to understand how eyes read pictures. That's all. And I don't want to completely squash that type of like anarchy, because all art is anarchy in some way, and I think that's great. Could you import 2 or more reference photos at the same time? I guess you could, for example, do a photo that has like 2 different images and have them in the reference window at the same time, because in the reference window you can pinch and scroll. So you can have one picture and then you can change it into the next one, or have both on the screen at the same time. But the source file is one picture, so if that one picture is 2 pictures, you can get around that restriction quite easily. I think this song was playing in the last live stream as well, but I just loved it too much not to include it again. I think with these lights I can kind of describe the direction of the sunlight a bit better. Because the trees and bushes, they have more organic shapes. I have painted this one bush on a wrong layer. So the logic with these two things is that these are supposed to be all the elements that are possible to put behind the weather box. Now it's fixed. By the way, this live stream is a bit different in layout because I put the webcam a bit bigger because I needed to put the iPad screen a bit smaller, because in the previous live streams I had the iPad screen kind of like zoomed in, so the bottom half was completely missing. But I thought that if I show some of these tools, like for example glitch, you wouldn't be able to see the bottom row in these sort of things. I'm gonna do a glitch. EB Hamliming is asking, is this a second picture to go with the one you did before? Yes. I thought that the weather box is this sort of like Rubik's Cube in the sky, and you can control weather with it. And when you are controlling the weather, it changes shape into these different types of operations. And I just thought that it would be fun to explore that. I think this other operator sitting here, he's not as useful as the other one because it doesn't seem to be contributing that much to the process. There are like a bazillion tangent issues with this ring of clouds, but I will try to reposition it. I was just using the oval shape to get the perspective of the clouds right. I think it's important for clouds to always, not always, but in most cases to have perspective where it makes sense. And as you can see, it snaps to the middle of the screen, and I like that because I have that device set there as well. It's trying to find a location where it's not causing as many tangent issues. The rest I can just paint away. And for these furthest clouds, I'm squishing them down a little bit to keep the illusion of them getting smaller in distance. Honestly, I could see this world existing in a video game, Evie Hamlin is saying. Yeah, me too. I think it would be cool to have this sort of like mix between block puzzle gameplay and like weird gardening, because all the other elements could have these plants growing on the top side of them. I think it could be interesting, and it would be pretty easy to make visually really interesting, and I think you could like sell that when people would just like post screenshots of their like weather box configuration and show it to others. I think that would be cool. Maybe even cooperative weather adjustment. One can dream. I hate this one cloud that is kind of like awkwardly right at the edge of the picture, so I'm gonna kill it. This is a problem that I don't need to be having right now. With this cloud placement, I want to create more contrast to this one character that is sort of like turned away from the sun. And because it's going to be mostly in silhouette, if I just put this like bright cloud behind him, I can kind of get more attention to that area. And for composition reasons, I'm going to turn this upside down so I can delete all the symbols in my mind for this part. I think that's useful enough. But maybe for this area, I don't know, there might be another ring that I add there later, and probably also a darker layer below here. I'm gonna see what is my darkest sky color, this one. Let's see. Because it's mostly the corners of the image, I don't want to create too much contrast in there. Also, hello from Finland. Hey, free the aliens. I don't have much Finnish subscribers, so that's fun. There's surprisingly a lot of like Finnish YouTubers, but most of them are in Finnish. Mikko making concept arts for a game that will beat Animal Crossing. Nothing will beat Animal Crossing ever. Oh my god, I forgot turnips again. It's already too late. No. I don't have any bells to spare anyway. I want to change bridge location, so maybe it's fine. I lost a lot of bells with the last turnip week. I bought them for like 104 bells and sold them for 70. I've been thinking that the arms of these stone creatures, they could be sort of like kind of like antenna things that like they extend when needed so that they can reach all the different parts of the weather box to operate it more easily. Whoa, I didn't lock this layer. Mistakes were made. I'm gonna have a bigger brush now and just like use it sideways so I can get more of that ice cream truck texture visible. Are you drawing on your thigh? Yes. Yes, I am. I was thinking of maybe adding additional camera angle to the stream, but then I realized that the more camera angles I have, the more restricted I am during this whole session, because I have to like stay within the frame, and that will cause me all kinds of physical pains later if I'm not careful of how I set up this workflow, so I decided against it. Also, to be completely honest, this room is kind of a mess. If you could just see what is happening on the floor. I still have the Cintiq there. Don't know what I should do with it. Because what's the point of attaching it to this computer? Because it's not like I'm going to take out Photoshop and then do a digital painting there. It might be like fun for 3D sculpting. But when is the last time that I have used ZBrush? I don't know. Hey people from Philippines and India and Wales. Telescoping, yes. This is the word that was missing in my vocabulary. Thank you. That is telescoping arms. West Africa. How can you draw from imagination? Practice. That is what I was talking about earlier, that I think just following tutorials is a bit different than just like going to art lessons and learning the fundamentals of art and then teaching your brain to use imagination at the same time. I think it's more useful in the long run. Because imagination is something that people just have or don't have. It's a skill like everything else, and if you don't practice it, you won't develop it. My imagination used to be terrible, by the way. And I would watch all of these sort of like, especially graphic design books, and think that how can people come up with all these cool ideas? That's, my brain doesn't work this way. But sure enough, if you just keep working on it, on that specific skill, you will learn anything you set your mind on. But also if you tell yourself that this is a thing that I can't do or I can't learn, then that is true. If you defend your weaknesses, you get to keep them, as Elizabeth Gilbert says in her book. Question, I'm curious, have you ever drawn your dreams before? All the time. All the time. You're the first YouTuber to react to my comment. Thank you. Well, you just got lucky because, as you can see, I can't read all of the comments when I try to also get the painting as far along as possible. But I will reply some of the comments that I miss in the comment section after the stream is over. So, thank you for understanding. Hey from Czech Republic. Can Procreate import PS gradient maps? The gradient maps are for gradient maps, so they aren't gradients like they are in Photoshop, so I would doubt that. But apparently now you can import swatches. So if you have a color palette in Photoshop, you can import that to Procreate 5x. I'm gonna put the drawing assist on and paint this platform over here with a smaller brush. I think I need to figure out what is going on with that propeller thingy on top. I wanted to have this sort of round shape that is not attached to the ground, but it's part of this weather box. The propeller is behind this, so setting it in the layers. Oh, wrong layer. I guess I could get the correct angle for that round part by using the circular oval shape I have as a reference, but for this small of an arc, I'm just gonna wing it and fix it if it becomes too bothersome. This is such a small detail that I can't get hysterical about everything. I'm currently stuck on figure drawing and I don't know the chronological order of what to learn first. Proportions, I think croquis drawing is really handy. But so exhausting. I don't want to discourage you from doing it, but good luck, it's a tough art to learn. Life drawing classes are always so long too. I remember I used to go all the time while working full time to this croquis class or life drawing class, and it was 4 hours. So after work, 4 hours of life drawing and then home to sleep. I was completely mentally exhausted after that. But I guess it's also because your brain is working all the time, trying to intake all the information, so that makes it so exhausting. Somebody's asking if Valiant Apple, great username by the way, if they can download my playlist. It's the music streaming service that I'm using, so I can't link to the playlist. And by the way, this was, as you can hear, the tracks blend to each other, so it's like one track that I made in Audition. And I'm playing like one track on a Windows Media Player. I have made one playlist video, so I might do that again, but the playlist video got like 0 views when I made it. I probably deserved it, because I don't know, it's not what people are expecting from this channel. But I could make one again, where I just have music for 1 hour and make some sort of like fun looping video for it. I don't know. It's kind of risky to do these sort of experimental videos on YouTube. Out of all the platforms, I think YouTube is the one where it's the scariest to try anything new, because of the way the algorithm works and what audience expectations are. Mikko, is it fine try painting the same painting too? I encourage you to copy the process. There's no point in copying the end result. I won't stop you, but that is just my recommendation. I think it would be more fun for all of us to see what is happening inside your head. Or if you're doing a weather box, at least do a different configuration. What does the weather box look like when they are summoning a lightning storm or a huge cloud? All of those ideas could be fun to see. Okay, I think I'm liking the overall look of this thus far. Where am I? 1 hour and 20 minutes. Okay. I still need to hurry up, but I think I'm doing okay on time. I think at least the main elements I will be able to get in here. I always struggle to find the right music that isn't too distracting. You would have at least one person for that video. Great. I'll consider it. This is Procreate. Somebody's asking which app. You would be surprised how many questions I get on this channel, what app I'm using, even though the app name is in most of my videos, but I guess people just don't realize that that is the app name. I don't know what I could do to communicate that better. I can't have the name of each video be the same either. For some reason I thought that it would be interesting if there are some like pillars here, there are just like cylinders. Maybe I could suggest that there are some patterns on them later. I don't know why. It just seemed like a thing that a weather box would have. This isn't a great reason, but it's the only reason that I have for this. I think I could set this layer behind those bushes. Or no, I'm gonna do it another way. Otherwise I will just have one layer for a completely silly reason. Tell me what, how, and where do you prefer to draw? Even in times like this. Wow, that's a lot of questions in one question. I love painting things that take me away from here. I'm drawing at home because I'm making these YouTube videos and there's like a whole studio of equipment to make these videos happen. But if I could paint anywhere, obviously not now, not during this year, because of everything that is happening, but ideally I would love to paint in a train. If I could paint anywhere, I would paint in a really long train ride. It's my wish that I can do a video on this channel sometime if I just go on a really long train ride somewhere, not just even to visit there, but just to be in a train and see the scenery and paint a whole painting during the train ride, and maybe make like a vlog type of a video out of that. I think it would be kind of like an art challenge, but still fun because it's my favorite thing to do. And now that I don't have a job anymore, like why not? Like why not do all of these like silly things now? When am I going to do them? Because I want to. I think that would be super fun. I need to scroll because there was so much spam in the chat that I need to see what is happening. Yeah, definitely blocking all the spam people. Sorry, I need to kind of be on top of this stuff. Since when have you been drawing? Pretty much as long as I remember. I don't really like drawing that much. I prefer painting. How do you paint with so less layers? Layer management. Layer management is super important, otherwise the whole painting can get away from you really quickly. What happened? Line created. Did it freeze? No, I'm in a quick shape mode. I just didn't notice that I initiated it. It was so distracting to see all of that spam in the chat. Oof. Are you going to upload this video later? Yes, it happens automatically after the stream is over. A long streams take quite a long time for the YouTube processes to upload them. And then it usually takes some time for the chat to be uploaded. That happens automatically. That's not something that I am in control of. So it goes through some sort of like YouTube checking system, I guess, before it's uploaded. And then it's available for everybody. Do you teach online? Yes, sometimes. My last concept art course was online that I did for a school. But now I've been working on kind of like a self-study class for people who want to get started with painting, digital painting, especially in Procreate, and that is going to be a bit more of like technical, tutorial-focused course, and I'm going to make that as a set of like tutorial videos for Gumroad, I think. I'm not sure exactly which platform yet, but right now I know that Gumroad works for me, so at least that is an option. Could be also one of these like online study classes. But my idea with that is that I would create like these different projects, and I know that some people want to follow like a specific set of steps to create a painting, but I'm trying to structure it in a way that people will have more and more options, and I want those paintings that they make out of them to be completely their own. I think my intention is not for people to copy my painting. I think that will be more rewarding and more empowering for them to keep doing their own work in the future. But for more like advanced painting class, I'm thinking of doing it in Procreate, but not having it Procreate specific, but do like an online version of the normal art classes that I have taught in schools, so that it would be about painting and sort of like more advanced. the checklist method and all that. I don't know if people would be interested in that, but I don't know. At least I can try and see. But it's the way that I have taught art in schools for over 5 years now, 5 or 6. So it's all the stuff that I know that works, because when I first started teaching art, I was really bad at it. And don't think just because somebody can paint that they can also teach art. It's a completely different skill. And it took me a really long time to kind of like find methods that get people easy wins in the beginning, because I think that is important for people to feel motivated to keep going and understand also the process a bit better, because you can't just teach composition, you also have to teach people why they are making the painting that they are making and the storytelling behind it. Because if you don't also focus on the reasons why you are making art, it's going to be too hard and people are going to quit. This channel isn't like a Finnish version of Bob Ross. Like, I have no intention of telling people that art is easy. It's not, but it's definitely worth it. And if I keep telling you that art is easy and then you go and paint and then you get frustrated, that's not really helping anybody if it only motivates you for the first 5 minutes. But if I can like prepare people for failure, I think then I'm giving them much more than just motivation and something that they can work with. Do you have Instagram? Yes, I do. I had Instagram before I had a YouTube channel. It's Angry Mikko. By the way, this is also the first time that I'm streaming and I have 60,000 subscribers on this channel, so that's pretty awesome. We have a bigger angry mob now. I never ever thought that when I started this channel that I would have more than 10,000 subscribers. 10,000 seemed like a lot. I remember specifically, and it was a YouTube video from Fran Nerd that I watched where she was talking that it was something about her past when she started YouTube, and then in one of like the side sentences she said like, back when I only had 2,000 subscribers, and it was that moment that I thought like, wow, I wish that I could get 2,000 subscribers someday. I wish I had a YouTube channel in the first place, but I thought that like, wow, 2,000 seems like a lot. It's all relative. What are some of your ways of getting inspiration, since all your paintings are so mystical? Well, my biggest source of inspiration is all the RPG games from 90s that I played as a kid. I think that shaped my imagination to the way that it is now. And like I said earlier, I still love, for example, Final Fantasy games, but they're not the same as they were in the PlayStation 1 era. It's a completely different aesthetic than it used to be. So it's the 90s version of that I'm actually a fan of. Then the normal stuff, like relationships, sex and loneliness. Those are the things that are the main sources of inspiration, always. I always answer this question the same way. The answer is always the same. I guess this was necessary to happen. So that is Vivi. And it's Vivi because of what I just said. She's behaving really nicely. She resembles, she has this sort of like cat-like presence when she's more quiet, especially in the mornings. Personality type, it's INFP. Actually, now I realize that if I'm gonna do this cut, I'm going to need to do the inner part of this arc as well. Arch. English is hard. Misfit is asking 9. Yes, 9. It's my favorite. Also favorite soundtrack. Not like none of the tracks are like standouts like in 8, Liberi Fatali or One Winged Angel in 7, but just overall the whole soundtrack I think is Nobuo's best work. Wow, I hate everything about this art. Yeesh. It's a bit more tolerable. I'm INFP Mikko, twinsies. Tell me one aspect about you that is an INFP quality so that other people in the chat know what that means. I think it was surprisingly accurate. And I think it's 4% of the population. It's quite small that are INFP people. I think all politicians should be INFPs. Honestly, all of them in every country. If everybody was just INFP, we wouldn't have any of this BS that is happening in the world right now. Do you use Paperlike? No, I don't. I'm gonna just check if I'm running low on battery, because I noticed that I need to attach the screen to a power source, and apparently it's enough not to drain all the battery. It's still like that. Arch is just so bad. Maybe it's because there's so little actual perspective happening here that I didn't need to do all of that. I kind of over-explained the curve by painting it. Also, why am I painting everything in shadow? This is not shadow area. Yeesh. So many questions. And I can only blame myself. Okay, and now I'm going to do a darker color layer as a clipping mask. To paint like some suggestions of shadows here. Ruby is saying to my question, I can understand pretty much everyone's perspective. I feel like I'm always playing devil's advocate, but it's because I empathize. Nobody's right, they're just coming from their perspective. Yeah, I think you nailed the whole essence of INFP personality, and I think that's why we would make really good politicians. We wouldn't make things black and white, we would have an actual discussion. I think I would make a really bad therapist, because I would probably be good at understanding people's problems, but I would be really bad at externalizing all of that stuff to just work. I would carry all the people's worries with me and I would worry for them. I'm always the person that is trying to fix all of my friends' problems, and this had made me really bad in relationships. I think a good therapist is someone who is good at listening and then can just like be like hands off that you're just there to give support and not to feel the feelings for other people. Mikko, do you stream on a schedule? No, mostly the stream timing is based on whenever it's possible for me to stream, and right now the one deciding factor is usually Vivi. This is my priority, and when the timing allows that, I can stream when she's taken care of, and I know that I have this much time freed up, then I can do a stream. So that's why I usually don't have these. Like for this stream, I had the Instagram story alert for when the stream is happening. But that's rare. It's only because my boyfriend told me before that he can take care of Vivi. Wow, Ruby is saying, oh my god, Mikko, I'm going to school for therapy. Sorry. Maybe that's not what you want to hear. Thank you for joining Valiant Apple. Sleep valiantly. I'm gonna block in the main shadows first. I think whenever you start to do some shading, I think it's better to go as big with the brush sizes as possible and then worry about the details later. Are there some custom brushes you are using? Yes, this is Polaris ice cream truck from my brush pack. I have a link to the brush pack in the description of this live video, I think. The settings for description are a bit different for live streams, so I can't check it right now. And YouTube is changing the live streaming toolbar again. Somebody's asking in the chat, how did I meet my boyfriend? And I think it's funny that somebody's asking this because the person that I silenced earlier that was screaming all of this sort of like public health harmful stuff in the chat, said earlier that like nobody's interested in my life, and like, I don't know. These questions make me wonder that sometimes people are interested in my life, but just guess it was in the wrong channel. I guess one thing with YouTube is that you have to understand that like you can't make content for everybody, and not everybody's going to like my content, and that has to be fine, because you have to understand that people are different, and it's basically not everybody's going to like you, and if you're not okay with that, you're never going to find the right people that are going to be supportive and are interested in what you're doing. So you can kind of like hide who you are, because then you will kind of block out all the right people as well, block out them from finding you. I wish I had an accent like that. Move to Finland. I will buy you a beer if you come. I can't give you the accent, but like spend enough time with me, it will stick, I'm sure. Or one option is that like get a Finnish girlfriend or boyfriend or both, like I don't judge, and then just have a huge language barrier, so you need to learn Finnish and eventually it will stick. That way you can do it. Candy Girl Sunshine is saying, what? I love to hear about your life too. I'm trying to limit it, so it's mostly art. But definitely it's impossible for me to exclude my life from my channel, because this is about art, and art is only about my life. It's the only thing that is about. I don't just like design a fantasy setting or characters just for something to look cool ever. No, it's always about what I'm going through in life and what I need. Usually my paintings are kind of like inversion of what I'm feeling. So for example, if I'm feeling very lonely or sad, I want to surround myself with things that make me feel happier, and that's why so much of my art is so bright and friendly looking, because I just want to paint friends for myself. And when I paint these characters now, I feel like I have more friends. I don't know, it sounds really sad when I explain it that way. If you look at for example, the story of Pumpkin in last year's Halloween video, I think that's a perfect example of that, how the characters and what they are for. Somebody saying that this is a respectable size for a coffee cup. Yeah, it could be a bit bigger. is Procreate 5X already available, or are you using the early access version? This is the beta version of 5X that I'm painting with right now. What layer am I on? I was painting these weatherbox operators, yes. This is going to look weird for a while. But just hang in there. It will all make sense in the end. Every time I do one of these like textures for a layer, somebody freaks out in the chat that like, oh my god, he's destroying the painting. You should do this or that and not whatever that you are doing right now. I think those moments are always funny later when I read it in the chat. You can also see this in the black and white painting that I did when I'm doing a cliff face texture for the screen. So I'm just like painting these scribbles all over the screen and people are like, oh my god, yeah, he totally ruined it. It's done. Burn it down. So this is a blade for the weather box to do whatever function this is. If I would have to guess, I would say that what is happening in this image is that the weather box is performing a function that causes like a light summer breeze. Not quite like a wind, but just a small squall. Okay, that's one, and I'm gonna have it scaled down in uniform. Small enough that I can fit everything that I'm about to make. And then just duplicates. Hopefully I have enough layers to do this. By the way, if you want to see snapping, it has this window now. And with magnetics, you can constrain it to different angles of movement, but I'm gonna take that out. And then, whoa, what did I just do? One thing that I really hate about this iOS 14 update is the scribble feature, because it wants to now initiate this scribble feature everywhere when you are using the iPad with your Apple Pencil, and it's trying to be helpful, and it's thinking that I want to write text by handwriting. I'm probably going to disable it. Thanks for sharing. Greetings from Argentina. I love your art. I've never been there. Would be fun to visit someday. What are you planning for the next steps for your future of your art as a brand? Well, my next steps are I really want to get that course finished. I have already started on the basics course that is project based for people new to Procreate and digital art, and after that my next plan is to do the complete full course, and that is not going to be about Procreate or any specific digital program, but it's about art. It's like more advanced stuff. And just see how that does. I really don't know how people who have been following me would feel about the courses that I've done, but I feel quite motivated by the feedback that I have gotten in my classes, because the last 3 years when I've been doing the art classes, I have actually gotten like emails from several students in the group thanking me from the course. I know that this sounds like really selfish to like mention this out loud, but those are moments that have made me so happy that I could cry. That first of all, it made me feel like I have improved as an artist. When I see the students and how their work improves, that also makes me feel like really happy about the whole thing. But also I'm thinking of like, how often did I write my teachers that I was happy with the class that they took? Like, never. So putting that into that context, like that gave me some motivation that like maybe I'm getting better at this teaching stuff. And I don't know, I love it quite a lot. I don't know, because I love teaching art the way that I wish that art had been taught to me. Because I've been quite open about the fact that I had a lot of like mental troubles with my creativity and working as an artist, and I think all of that could have been avoided if I had just learned that while learning art. It could have been avoided. I strongly feel that, and I feel like art is taught in a way that kind of pushes people into overworking and just stretching themselves. Like the person asking that, just the fact that you said that like for your brand, I don't think about my brand when I think about art or what style I want to make. I think it's those sort of like ideas that cause people a lot of anxiety when they start thinking about is my audience going to embrace this style or this painting, and do I have the freedom to try different things creatively? It's those things that are pushing people into a corner. And the whole thing that I hate it when people talk about, especially art teachers, when art teachers talk about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. That is such bullcrap, honestly. It's the worst advice that an art teacher can give, and I don't make that mistake anymore. I used to just repeat all the things that like art teachers had taught me, but then I realized that like not all of this is valid, and not all of it is helpful, and some of it is actually harmful. Okay. Now it's there. I kind of like the extra ring, it adds focus. Now I'm gonna use the new curves function, and I'm just gonna curves and use that in pencil mode. And in pencil mode, first of all, I'm going to take away these, because this way the gamma is normal. And from blue, I'm going to crunch it down a little bit from highlights, and red, crunch it up a little bit. And then add a little bit of highlights. And this way I should be able to paint highlights that are slightly warmer on this layer. And as you can see, I'm using the brush without any layer masks. So this is one of my favorite features in Procreate 5X. And you can adjust it later to make sure that it's strong enough. I'm gonna create this sort of like proxy for a shadow, because I can also erase this. As you can see, the eraser also changes to the same mode, and you can also erase with a custom brush. So many people think that art is done like Bob Ross painting, half hour and it's finished. Yeah, well, some art is. Bob Ross art is probably done like that. But yes, painting takes time. I think for that sort of like false preconception, a lot of the people that are inquiring about commission prices, they are surprised at like how expensive it is to order a person working on a custom illustration for a book cover or album cover or movie project. Is that they don't understand just like how much work there is involved. I don't know if some of you saw that like frequently asked questions section that I did on Instagram stories recently, but there I kind of like went into the things that if you are thinking of becoming a freelance illustrator someday, what are the things that you should take into consideration when you are pricing your illustrations. And some people are not going to be okay with those prices, and then it's just not the right client. I think the most important thing that I have learned about doing client works is that like when communicating with a client before you agree to take on the job, like be ready to just decline. It'd be okay with saying that like this job is not for me if the price isn't right and you see that like this would be more trouble than it's worth. Because if an illustration takes too much time and it's taking time away from me, for example, from making these videos for YouTube or print for my print shop, then it's actually costing me money to work on that commission if the payment is not good enough compensation. And obviously when you can't even show the work, that doesn't make any sense. So be okay with like saying no if the price isn't right, and know that if you say no to a freelance client, there will be others. It's never like the last possible chance for you to get freelance work. Those will come, and as you keep making more and more work, it will be easier and easier to get clients. And the only way to get clients is to like have online visibility. And that's the reason why there are so many videos on my channel about marketing and online presence, because that is the job of the artist. That is your job. And I think it's your responsibility towards your art as a creative person, because you got the idea from your creativity for free. So that painting wasn't meant just for you, it was for everybody to see, because your creativity, I believe, wants that work to be seen through you, and it's not just for you, it's for everybody. And I think it's selfish not to publish your paintings, and I think it's selfish not to market your paintings. I think that's the reasons why your creativity wants to communicate with you at all. So if you just like take yourself out of the whole question, sometimes it's easier to work for the reasons that the painting came to you, because it's not really about you. You're just kind of the manual labor between the idea and the real physical world. And I think it's freeing to realize that it's not just about you. Greetings from Åland. Oh, my condolences for anybody living in Åland. I was there last summer. I mean, it's a nice place to visit, especially all the castle forts look amazing. But what can you do in Åland, really? Oof. Okay, I think this looks pretty good. I think the shadows could be... Maybe I will adjust those later. If you recognize this track, it's been playing in almost all of my live streams, but this is my favorite song from all the tracks that I'm listening to, so I'm not gonna make an apology for having it here again. It's Subnautic by AB something. Dognado is happening in the background, my apologies. She usually has a really quick freak out, and then this like loud part ends pretty soon. That wasn't actually better, so I'm gonna scrap it. Getting rid of these temporary layers. Emma is replying to the Åland comment. I actually moved here from Sweden. Much better when you have kids, much safer, beautiful environment, and yeah, that's probably all. Yeah. I understand those reasons. She's really having a good freak out over there. I'm sorry. There's not really anything I can do about it, but maybe silence the microphone if you want. Part of the freak out is also that Vivi is like running around the apartment back and forth at like full speed. And in those moments I just wonder about all those like advice that I have seen in puppy books that I shouldn't take Vivi out for long walks yet, because it could be dangerous for her hips or something. And I'm thinking, what does it matter when she's doing the same amount of running indoors? It's not like I can like hold her in my lap until she's older. So but she is wonderful to carry around. Question, why is your channel name Angry Mikko when you're the sweetest person on the internet? Oh my god. Oh, I feel bad for reading these comments out loud. Is Sweden not safe? I think Sweden is pretty safe. Probably the same as Finland. Depends on where you live. A lot of the people on this channel are big fans of Studio Ghibli. A lot of the Studio Ghibli movies have architecture that is inspired by Swedish towns. So I recommend seeing the old town, for example, in Stockholm. You will love it. Well, the 3 hours is almost up. I need to hurry. I guess I've been reading the chat more than usual, so I'm painting slower. Or it's a more challenging painting. It's difficult to know. So many factors. But Procreate hasn't crashed even once. So I guess they are ready for the release. This might be the same version that is being released tomorrow. How to transition to being imaginative artist? Practice. Practice like everything else. That includes being bad at it first and being okay with it. Actually, the ledge shadow shouldn't start there. That was a mistake. It would be here, so it won't be visible. So here are the grass colors, and for the grass colors I have added the shadows to those hues next to them, so I wouldn't mix them with the tree and foliage colors. Whoa. And I want to have these sort of like overlapping edges. So for example, here is the bright side of the green area. So I want to have enough areas where that green area is turning into the shadow color. So that will explain what these things are when they are happening. So this is the same color in shadow, so that it just doesn't appear from nowhere. And the same for here, in the upper area with this ledge. Because these two colors are already very different, but you see them consistently everywhere, so that just like sells the idea that this like grayish purple color is the shadow side of this beige color. But if it was happening only in one place, the viewer wouldn't buy that as truth. The leap can be pretty drastic, but if you're just consistent with this rule, you can get away with anything, basically. I just want to break these sort of like geometric shapes with these things on top, like light silhouettes. Hello, what is the most important thing you've learned as an artist? Whoa, oh my god, I've been sitting in this terrible chair for an... I have lost all feeling from my buttocks. Sorry. None of you needed to know that. This is going to sound really dumb. But hang on. Hopefully this will make sense. I think the most important thing that I have learned over time, slowly, is being more myself. And by more, I don't mean fully. And everybody's giving this advice that like, just be yourself. And I think that is crap advice, because being yourself is really hard. And it's also a skill that you really have to work on. And I think I've gotten better at it. And it's causing me less friction to paint. I don't feel like ashamed that I have an idea that is like too cute or whimsical for a guy to be painting online where other people are seeing it. And there is not a painting that is like too personal or painful for me to paint that I won't get scared anymore of like posting it online. Sometimes I still like wince when something is really personal or like a painful memory that I post on Instagram. But I don't run away from those ideas anymore like I used to. I think the worst one was when I posted that painting called You Left. I just felt like I had punched myself by doing that painting. But it's a painting that I wouldn't have been able to do before. I will probably return to these areas to fine-tune these, but I want to have eyes for these guys. Just so that I can feel that they are in the picture that I'm painting. I think these sort of details are really important to look at upside down. Okay, that is pretty much a wasted layer, so because it only has 2 dots, but it's important. Jade Shay is asking, would you ever consider doing redraw my old art type video? I always think it's so cool to see artists do that with their old work, to see how much they've progressed or changed style. Oh, this is heavy. This is heavy, because I also see these posts online. I think they are kind of like discouraging sometimes when you see so many like hateful comments that like, oh, I like your old style more. I don't know if I would like to be the target of that. Also, I've done art for a really long time. How old are we talking about here? Maybe could I like find something from 20 years ago? That could make sense. I have this like one video idea that I have been thinking. I don't know if you'd be interested in it, but before I started doing painting videos, like I obviously did a lot of painting, and some of those were like more important to me than others. So I thought like maybe it would be fun to go through like 5 paintings from my past and just talk about them like really quickly, to see the type of paintings that I have done, like for example during my Photoshop days and so on. The painting that you see behind me in, for example, the Procreate 5X video, that is already 14 years old. And it's still on my wall. I don't hate it. I don't think I could like paint it better. It is what it is. I would probably paint it differently, but I wouldn't say better. If you eat candy, sweets, what is your favorite? Well, I'm Finnish, so licorice. just followed you on Instagram. Thank you. Hey, I just popped in with the update. Will we still be able to use all the brushes that we were all downloaded before? Yes, yes. It's just a normal update. Somebody's asking, is it important to learn to draw before you learn to paint? This is one of the ways that has changed in the way that I teach art, because I started out teaching art the way that it was taught to me, that first you learn to draw and then you can paint. And then I thought about myself, and when I was working, because when I started teaching I was still working full time making video games. And I thought, like, do I ever sit down and make line art for the painting that I'm about to make? And the answer is, of course, never. So why am I teaching this? Is this actually helpful? And some people just don't like drawing. I don't like drawing often that much. Sometimes I do, but most of the time I don't. So I stopped just saying that. But I think it is helpful, because like everybody else, I pushed myself to draw like for decades basically before I realized that like I just don't like this as much as painting. But I have read this like great piece of advice that changed me quite a bit when I read a book about drawing, and it's a great book, and drawing is great because it allows you to learn line rhythm, and line rhythm is important for painting. You have to have line rhythm when you paint. This is also why I don't recommend that people use like tons of different brushes for their paintings, but use the same one. So the book is Onni Oja, Piirtämisen taito, The Art of Drawing. It's a Finnish book about drawing. And in there he describes two different ways of drawing, and one is through line art and one is through volume. And there are like good examples of like what he means by this. And the other one is like more painterly way of drawing, where you just like paint in or draw in all the shadows. And the other one is like through lines and edges. And when I read that chapter, somehow I realized that like I see the world like through these sort of like mass volumes. And in one of the art classes in the art school, we were doing like figure drawing usually with charcoal, like is done in most life drawing classes. But then on one class we used oil paint because it was a school for oil painting, and it suddenly just like clicked. And I loved doing life drawing suddenly, and I realized that I can just like paint the figure right away, like much quicker, and I actually like doing it. So it was like a completely different world. So if you have that sort of experience, just like know that like you probably see the world in one or the other way, as like line art or just like as full volumes. But I guess I could have just started that way. I could have just like painted everything and learned to do the shapes by painting. But it's also important if you take that route that you understand that you don't get stuck on details, because it's much easier to get stuck on details in painting. So have huge brushes and learn the difference between blocking in and rendering. Because blocking in is like learning the shape language, and that will kind of like grow your drawing skills. The drawing skills and painting skills are really one and the same, but it's just the way of working. And you can learn anatomy by painting. You can. But like, choose a technique that you don't get stuck on. It's just usually figure drawing is the faster way for most people, but you can also limit, like for example, this class that I was talking about when we were doing a figure drawing in a figure drawing class with oil paints. Those were like croquis paintings. It was like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. We weren't doing like a rendering, we were doing figure and gesture. And you can extend that the same way. Look at any of, for example, Gil Elfgren's oil paintings, or are those acrylic paintings? I think they're oil paintings. Could be acrylic. Anyway, he was doing all these pin-up pictures, like for example the old Coca-Cola bottle girls. They were done by Gil Elfgren. And during his lunch breaks, he would do these sort of like figure studies that were like super realistic, but they were done in just like 20 minutes or something. You can use that method also to learn. But whatever method you choose, like I think it should be one that you actually do, because if somebody advises you that like the only way that you can learn figure drawing is by drawing with a pen, if you don't actually do it, if you don't spend thousands of hours doing it, it's not good advice if it doesn't get you to like do the work. But if it gets you to, if saying this gets you to paint thousands of hours of figure gesture drawings or doing croquis paintings with a flat brush, then that's actionable advice that you can actually use to get better. So you can only answer this question yourself. JJ saying, thanks Mikko, I always loved streams and your genuine interactions with us. See you next time. Thanks for joining. When I transitioned, I just started tracing and getting to know the program and how things works. Then you'll eventually find your likings. I think it's like really important to listen to yourself and see that like what things you actually like to do. Not what you like, what kind of artist you wish you were, but like what you are actually enjoying when you're doing it. It's a much quieter voice to hear, but I think that's the important voice to listen to, because that can be a clue on how you can get better faster and not completely like wreck yourself on the way there. Because if the path to like learning technical skills completely burns you out and makes you hate everything about art, then it's not a trip worth taking. It's important to have this like planning phase of like how I actually like doing things, because it's going to be a never-ending journey basically. You will never be done. Oh, I painted on the wrong layer. God damn it. Might as well merge them. I guess the checklist for composition is for classes only, yes. It takes the whole class to go through, so it wouldn't be a good fit for YouTube, even if I wanted to do it. And it is my work, so. Also, it's kind of no use for me to just passively explain it in a video. there would have to be like homework and exercises for all of the steps for that to make sense. Now I'm gonna explain this like weird levitating cypress tree here. Or explain, it's still going to be a levitating platform, so I don't know if that qualifies as an explanation. I accidentally went full screen. Maybe I did the four finger tap without noticing it. Why are you selling your brush set? Give us a gift. There is a free brush that you can download on my Gumroad. I have like only one of those spots that I can do a free download on Gumroad, and it's there. Get it. Also, I'm not gonna apologize for having a product. Also, if you are saying this comment, you don't need my brushes. I honestly mean that. You don't need them. You don't need them to paint. The brush set that is in Procreate is already really good. This is just the brush set that I made for myself, and as people were asking for it for that long of a time, then I decided to make it available. But I made this brush set during the course of 3 years. If you think that that work isn't worth the amount that my brush set is, then I have nothing to say to you. I think when people say that something is too expensive, then probably like the value is just not there for your money, and I think that is fine. Some people say that Procreate is too expensive, but then I guess like just like having a painting app on the iPad is not the worth of iPad price, which I think is strange considering how expensive iPad is, that there are still tons of people on Procreate's own Instagram feed saying that like, why isn't your app free? Sometimes I wonder that do those people understand that like that would come with strings attached. You would have to pay for it in other ways if it was free. I keep wondering like how can they afford to make all these updates free, because there's a huge staff of people working on Procreate constantly, and even this update, the 5x, like I don't have to pay anything to get all these features that are awesome, but like honestly I was pretty happy with the application the way it was. They could have easily charged for it, but they didn't. What brush do your drawings use? Drawings, all the brushes that I have in my brush pack, they are for painting, are they? I think I have my monoline brush there, not quite sure. I only have this like one brush from the brush set in the beta version, so the brush set is in the full version of I mean like the release version of Procreate on my iPad, so I can check quickly right now. But if you want free brushes, one good brush that I can recommend for drawing is already in Procreate default brushes, and it's dry ink. A lot of my black and white Gothic architecture illustrations, they are done with dry ink. That is a default brush in Procreate. From all the paintings you have created, which would you live in? That wouldn't be a painting, that would be a drawing, and that drawing would be Village of the Carrots. I don't know if I have that on my Instagram, it's probably really tiny, but it's a huge drawing. I drew that drawing for almost a month, maybe even more, and it's drawn in fisheye perspective. And it's a village for the carrots. You have probably seen carrots in my other videos, like for example the previous one that I just uploaded. It's almost 3 hours, I have to stop soon. I'm gonna add some of these, I'm gonna add a bit more clouds, because I think the clouds need a bit more contrast. Just to make sure that like the image has like the visual impact in place before I quit the stream. Because I never want to add like big visual elements to the painting after the stream has ended. I try to always get these paintings to the point where like the message is already there. Also, there's going to be a pinwheel on one of the operators, so I want to get that in because it's important for the story. It's important to visualize that the other operator is not doing anything useful. I'm gonna get this really small so I have better understanding of what I need to have here. And then I'm gonna add a clipping mask to that. Work on the shadow side of these. Have you done a fisheye perspective painting? Yes. I'm in love with one of your creations on Insta, the one called You Are Moonlight. Oh. It's done with that illustration. Those are the Sumi-E brushes that I bought in Japan. Whoa. The things that can happen to you when you forget to lock the layer. Stupid question, but do you use references often? Yes, I use references often, or mostly paint from imagination. Also, yes. Yes to both. there was this sort of like a vent in the previous illustration, and I want to kind of like reference that to kind of hint that these are the same pieces. They are just shuffled into a different order when the weatherbox operators are readying the box for a different weather effect. I don't know if that makes sense to you. Somehow it has some internal logic to me. When the painting is finished, I will post it on my Twitter. Because it's so late, I will probably finish it tomorrow. After taking care of Vivi, of course. I almost always post the finished paintings on my Instagram, but sometimes there's a queue of different paintings that are planned for Instagram, so Twitter is the place where I have basically no followers, so there is no plan, so I can just dump anything I want there. So usually after the stream is over, I upload the finished paintings to Twitter first. I guess this would be a good example of like how I'm not blending the colors. Sorry, but I'm trying to color pick different variations so I can still use brush strokes. Because when I zoom out from here, you won't be like noticing these brush strokes. But I think it's details like these that make prints look better. When you see like a surface has shape and direction and volume to it, but if it's just a blended, blurred surface, I don't know, it looks a bit cheaper as a print. This is my opinion. In this style it would look, not, you know, like if you're doing a graphic style illustration, of course, like do all the flat colors that you want, that's awesome, and it's probably harder than what I'm doing here, but for this I think it's important to have line rhythm for all the surfaces. I'm gonna flip the canvas because I think that in this area there needs to be more green foliage to make that space work. So I'm gonna make a new layer so I can add it when I see the way it needs to be added. And now I'm gonna be quiet for a little bit because this part needs to be done as quickly as possible while I still can see it. Sorry. I think in this mode I just need to work as quickly as I can so that I don't lose the fresh eyes for the composition. There's one more lighting thing that I need to add. Or here. Am I on the right layer? Damn it, no. This one. Okay. So there's going to be one more spinny thing here, that's why the oval shape is there. Then I'm gonna lock this layer and apply the shadow color there. This part is usually very fun for me to do for some reason. I just think it's so satisfying to see how just this change of color suddenly applies this sort of like perspective to a completely abstract blotch of color. Unpronounceable is saying, you saved one of my paintings with that black and white switch for the values. Thank you so much. So you're probably referring to the power button trick. And if you're new to this channel, I highly recommend look at the power button video. It's super short and you can get the value out of it by watching just the first 2 minutes and following those steps and set your iPad that way. I promise you that will like change the way that you paint, like do it. It's super useful. Also, that was one of those videos that I thought like for sure somebody's going to come up with this and like make the tons of videos. I'm still surprised that it's not the thing that it's like Googleable. Everybody should do it. So this looks like it's white in context, but when you look at this color chart, you notice that there's still like editing room for later. Because if I go full white, then I wouldn't have any editing room, and that would be me painting myself into a corner. I want to have this like low color contrast here in this area where the weather box is touching the clouds, because this is the edge of the painting. I don't need to have contrast here, and that is kind of like a sneaky way to tell the viewer that the painting is over. Go back into the main part. There's nothing to see in here. unpronounceable is saying my name is AG. Did I say that right? Sorry. For anybody not seeing the chat, like the real name is MCISSH. That's way too many consonants for me. I'm not Icelandic. Wow, it's already 3 hours and 40 minutes. Let's do some really quick tweaks. I need to add that pinwheel. I mean, that is the most important thing for this whole painting. I can do the bigger thing later, but like the pinwheel needs to be in here. You have no idea how excited I was when that fireworks thing was happening in Animal Crossing, and then I got a pinwheel out of the raffle. Like, that's real happiness. This might be too small. Yeah, it's too small. Okay, let's just remove that and make a whole new pinwheel for this guy. Oh, it's a massive brush. This is the most important thing about this whole painting. AG is saying, are you going to do Inktober or have you ever done it? I have done it, but honestly, some people were asking in these live streams that I should do my own art challenge again, because not everybody had time to participate in Art is My Real Home challenge, and I've been thinking about that, and I would really like to do it, but now Inktober is almost here, so I was thinking that, like, can I do my own art challenge when Inktober is happening at the same time? I don't know. I would love to do my own art challenge. I hate this idea that there's already an art challenge for October, so I couldn't have it. I could have it in 2 different months. You could do both if you want. My art challenges are never about finishing a piece every single day, because my channel is not about burning you out creatively. And I thought about it for a really long time, and I asked the people that follow me on Instagram what would be a good challenge idea, and I got really good ideas for that, and based on those I had an idea that would be really cool, and I'd really like to do it, because my whole idea was what would be the way to help the most people in the best possible way, like Art is My Real Home challenge. So I think this idea is something that could have that same effect. I don't know, I might just do it anyway. This is me talking about something that I haven't decided on yet. Why, oh why did I destroy this wheel thingy, because I could have used for the other propeller. Oh, now I have to do it from scratch. Damn it. It kind of reminds me of custom robo. But it's not a socket. These guys have border in these spaces. What is it about artist and Animal Crossing? I just heard that the average age for Animal Crossing players is between 30 and 40 years old. So I think that made me happy to hear. Which brush you are using? Polar's ice cream truck. I don't know about the Inktober book drama. I don't want to get into it. Because art fundamentals are not owned by anybody, but I do think that the method of how you teach, it takes time and so much work to get right. For example, my art course, it has been developed over half a decade, really. That's valuable work. And if somebody can just like take that and teach that onwards, I don't know how I feel about that. It would feel like somebody is stealing my work. I'm not saying that the owner or the writer stole the work. I'm not taking part in this stuff at all. I do want to say that the writer of the original book, the drawing book, that made this claim, he has amazing biceps. That's all of my contribution to this online drama, and that's the end of it. Also, that gives me anxiety. Like, at what point are we supposed to do like million arm curls while we are developing art skills? Like, stop raising the bar for everybody. Come on, dude. Can I say that I love the chat and everybody in these streams. I love you guys in this stream. Like, you make this worth it. It's a lot to set up, but I love watching the stream, and when the stream is done and I watch it, because I force myself to watch my streams, so I know that I can improve the audio or way that I host the streams. But I love watching the chat replay. That gives me hope for humanity. Yeah, what was I saying? Except for like obvious exceptions. Yeah, sorry about that. I can't always follow the chat, so if somebody is spamming the chat or like just like misbehaving, I can't always intervene like when it's happening. But even if I completely miss it out and then I read it back again, I can still block and remove people later on. So it's not like I'm ignoring that. To me, it's not okay. I think it's my responsibility to keep this channel and group of people. I don't know. I want everybody else to support each other as well. Not just me supporting you, but you guys supporting each other in the art that you make. And that sometimes means that I will have like less subscribers because I will ban or like not allow certain type of behavior, and some people think that this should be like a free speech zone, but I don't know. I think about it more like this is my art gallery, and if somebody comes to my art gallery and starts talking nonsense or saying stuff that would be like public safety issue or just being harassing or just harassing other people in a gallery exhibition, you would never allow those people. So I think this is all of our party, and I think I'm the host, so it's my responsibility to see to that. I'm going to do this one editing trick because I'm not yet at the editing phase of this painting. I need to end soon, but I just wanted to show this one thing that I think could help you. So with the previous painting, I did this sort of like a lighten layer. So I set it as a lighten, and I'm gonna go into, I'm gonna set it as a clipping mask. And then edit the brightness so that I can see something, and it has to be lighter for it to be visible. And with this, I'm editing the back areas to kind of like fade in contrast. You can get away with something like very subtle sometimes. Oh, it's white. That's not usable. I'm gonna make a new one. So I'm gonna pick the sky color, because that's where all of this is fading in atmospheric perspective anyway. Is there anything on this layer? No? Okay. I'm gonna do the same thing. It's like slap some very precise and well thought of brush strokes with professional precision here. And then Gaussian blur it. So none of it matters. And then set it as a lighten layer, and then as a clipping mask. And then in a really low opacity. So that even though it's a flat surface, it still now has some atmospheric perspective to it, and then I drop it down. And now I can color pick this area when I want to emphasize this effect in other places. Like here, for example. I think Aegis, I might just now confusing your name with the Android character in Persona 3. That's Aegis, right? I think Aegis' answer to this iPad question is the right one. There's no like right model of iPad. Now is again like the perfect time to get an iPad because the new ones are just being released, so you can get like a new working one of the current generation before the next generation comes in. So there's going to be a dip in price at this time of the year, pretty much every year. Okay, so that's the thing. Actually, I'm gonna like flip this to other side. Okay. Thank you for everybody for joining this live stream, and I hope you can get some use out of this. Also, it's exciting that Procreate 5X is going to be released so soon, so I hope that all of you will love it as much as I do. Also, if you want to use this palette, I'm still gonna leave it on my story for a few minutes, so you can still go in there and grab it. Just go into my Instagram gallery, the link to my Instagram gallery is in the description, and just click the story and you should see the palette there. And just screen grab it. Sorry for everybody that is watching this too late. Okay, and let me know in the comments if you want to do this palette thing again, if you want to use a palette that I make. Oh my god, I just spilled coffee on the table. Thank you, Aegis, for moderating the chat. Okay, I need to stop. I could just like do this forever. I need to go. Okay, see you guys later in the next video. And I will post this painting to my Instagram